Hello everyone, this is Taryn with Wonderfully Made Handcrafting, and today we're working on day 12 of By the Will for God's Facing Fear. And in today's devotional, we're talking specifically about Psalm 27. And when I looked in David Gusik's commentary, I thought it was really nice. He split up the whole psalm in different parts, like his confidence in desire for God, or David's confidence in desire for God, and also a prayer. And then he did subtopics. So I ended up typing that out on a typewriter here first on some old ledger paper, and I'll eventually incorporate that into the page. Now, I do have to say, with this journaling entry, I was going in one direction and completely did a 180 and changed directions completely. That is something that I love about mixed media, is that if you don't like something or if it doesn't really go or whatnot, you can always change with mixed media. It might be a lot of work and you might have a lot of layers, but for the most part, I find that it's very easy to change things up. So for this background that I started with, I used antique linen distress oxide and I splattered some water on it to get that bleach look. And I've been dying to use these fern stamps since I saw them. I love them so much. And I decided to use this Tattered Rose embossing glaze from Tim Holtz. Now, when I use this Tattered Rose, I know that it kind of takes on the color from below because it is like a see-through embossing glaze, but I wasn't expecting it to be so orange. And by doing this, it also made that antique linen look very yellow and not as creamy as I was hoping. I was hoping to kind of tone that down with the water splatters. So anyways, this just wasn't going in the way I was thinking. I actually like it, but it just, I wasn't feeling it. I had my mind set on what kind of cluster I wanted on top of this, and it just wasn't going to work because the cluster had a lot of sage and like that tattered rose, like the true tattered rose color. And so as I'm embossing these, I was hoping that they would turn a little bit more pink, but they just simply do not. And then I'm just not enjoying this background as much as I was hoping to. Now I want to know, if you have the Tattered Rose embossing glaze, is it a lot more orangey than like the ink and stuff? Because I feel like it's, even without that yellow background, I feel like it's way more orangey than all my other Tattered Rose stuff. So leave a comment down below if you have the Tattered Rose embossing glaze and what you think of the color matching. Okay, so now I'm really trying to bring that Tattered Rose into this journaling entry. So I mixed the Distress Oxide with some texture paste, and I'm pushing it through a Tim Holtz stencil that I got for Christmas. That's like a doily, lacy kind of pattern, and it just doesn't come out the way I want. I just keep getting further from where I was hoping to be. And especially up here, the stencil just didn't come out very well. I think I had too much texture paste in it. And so now I'm like feeling I really need to, change this up. And it's okay to be in this spot. We can always fix it. So first off, I tried to bring my ink over everything. I make sure that that texture paste is completely dry, and I'm using my ink to rub around it. And it's working, but I know it's not going to completely kind of cover everything. And so instead, I remembered that I have some Tattered Rose distressed paint, and that works wonders. So I decided to grab that. I want to get kind of an even coverage of what I was going for with the ink first, but I'm going to kind of splatter that down on my mat, and then I'm just going to heavy-handed kind of go through everything. Now, what I really like about this is that you can still see the ferns through all this mixed media stuff, which was my number one goal, was to see those ferns. They are definitely tone on tone and a little bit hidden, but I like the look that it gives. I really want to pick up some more of these distress paints. I only have a handful of them, but I love the way that they work. They are super thin and fluid paint. Maybe thin isn't the correct word to use because they have really good coverage. So maybe fluid is better to say, but you can also go over like texture paste like I did here, and you'll still be able to see everything. The coverage is just amazing with these. So if you haven't picked some up, definitely grab some. I grabbed my Nuvo Embellishment Mousse. I want to add just a little bit of shine and sheen to this page to add a little something extra to this background, since now I've made it completely flat with that Tattered Rose Distress Paint. So this adds something a little bit extra, and I like how it grabs onto the texture paste a little bit, and so I'm just kind of spreading it around with my fingers on the page. I also wanted to add another color to give some balance to this background and make it not so shiny. So I grabbed my makeup brush to tone stuff down just a little bit. This makeup brush constantly has some form of brown on it, usually Frayed Burlap. And I like that it gives kind of a little bit of a dirty hint to the background. I got this Dina Wakley gloss spray in syrup. I've had her sprays beforehand, but this is one of the newer colors that was released. I found that it was very much so more liquidy than the other gloss sprays I have had in the past. It made it really difficult to kind of splatter, and so I'm not sure if it was just mine, or maybe it's a new formula, or maybe it's just the color itself. I got the job done, but it's much easier with my older gloss sprays. I'm not sure if they're thicker or maybe something was wrong with that specific one. So I'm officially done with the background. I've set that to the side so it can dry properly. You really don't want to heat set Dina Wakley's gloss sprays if you can help it. So I've set that aside, and I'm starting to work on my cluster. I had written my notes down on this old ledger paper from 1850 something, and I really love how my typewriter's ink just grabs onto this paper so well. I don't know what it is about it, but it's deep and dark, and I just love the way the ink looks on it. I did have this paper from the paper pack that I wanted to use. I really loved this sage green with that tattered rose color, and so I'm using that. I'm just distressing it up a little bit, and then I will use that walnut stain to add a little bit of distressing on the edges as well. As you can see here, I wasn't that careful, and I ripped my page, so I'm going to just glue it together. You won't even be able to tell once I glue that ledger paper on top, so I'm not too worried about that. Now, I do have to say I was a little not distracted, but my focus was somewhere else during this time. My son had come in and was talking to me and showing me something, and I didn't notice that my phone had died, and so I lost a little bit of footage, but I just wanted to show you. I used my Crop-A-Dile and put 2 grommet eyelets in, and then I also used the fabric that I got from the fabric pack to match Facing Fear, and I just folded that over and placed it on top of the paper. I really love this leaf ribbon that I picked up from Hobby Lobby. I am using my precision tip from Barely Arts to add glue to this tiny little stem, and I'm just gluing it down. I thought about sewing it, but I knew that I wasn't going to be successful on staying that little stem line, which it would just kind of bug me if I didn't. So I decided glue was the better option, and then I also didn't have to leave my desk. The last time I was at Hobby Lobby, I also decided I needed some lace, and so I picked up this lace here. Now it does have a stretch to it, which makes it a little tricky to use and glue down to a piece, but it's not too bad. What I love about this is that it is not white lace. It's more of a cream, so I don't have to dye it or anything because I don't really like that super white look. I'd rather things look a little bit antiqued, as you can probably tell from all of my pages. So I just add that as another layering element behind the By the Well for God fabric. I had a couple strings left over from tearing my fabric, so I decided to use them as a layering element behind my floral piece. And this is actually the floral piece that decided everything. At first I was just going to glue it down, but then I decided I needed some foam tape for it. But yeah, this floral piece is why I decided I needed to change my background. I really wanted to use this piece, and so this basically decided everything. I wanted everything to match this floral element. Now that I have that placed, I'm putting this on the page and I'm realizing that that lace and the fabric is getting a little lost in the background, especially since I have that very detailed texture paste on the bottom. It looks like the lace, and so I decided I needed something behind it to kind of make it pop. And so I grabbed this music paper Anne Marie sent me. I've been loving this music paper, and it is the perfect layering element. So I'm deciding to just tuck that under. First of all, kind of distressing it like I do for everything else, and then I'm going to tuck it up and under, and then I realized, yes, this is exactly what I wanted. And then I also need a place to add my date stamp. So I decide on one of these labels, kind of going in between that pink and green, but decide on this sage green color. And luckily the first stamp I did pretty well. A lot of times I'll make that crooked by accident, but we did good. And so I am going to cut that out. I put it on paper all the time. If you haven't seen any of my videos, I just like the kind of heaviness that it gives, and it makes sure that it's not see-through at all. So I'm going to tuck that in, add another little cluster element, and I'll staple that to my main cluster before I glue everything down. Now that music paper isn't attached to my cluster, so that's actually the first thing I'm going to glue down. That's why I laid everything down first and kind of just did that corner piece at first so I could get the right placement. But as I put that cluster down, I realized I really want the page number to be seen. I don't know what it is, but I just like those little tiny elements to be seen. And so I kind of moved it over a little bit before I glued down this huge cluster. Now this glue dries super fast, so all I have to do is hold it down for a second and it should be good. I also grab an older bow clip that I've made and I just stick that on top. And then I will actually grab some Nuvo drops to add more of that tarnished metal look to the bottom right hand corner to match the eyelets. After that, this page will be done. Thank you so much for sticking with me. I know this is a mixed media page that shows how something can go from one side to complete different side. So thank you for sticking with me. I hope this gives some encouragement to some of you. If you've liked this video, please like and subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me over on Instagram at Wonderfully Made Handcrafting. I'll link everything I use down below, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.